Riley sits alone in their dim apartment, the silence thick enough to feel like it's pressing on their chest. They hold a small wrapper in their hand, the crinkling sound too loud in the quiet room. They told themselves they wouldn't do this tonight, that they'd finally break the pattern, but the day hit harder than expected. Every time the sugar melts on their tongue, it turns the noise in their head into something softer, something that almost feels like warmth. They wish they could explain it to someone, but who would understand wanting to disappear into a sweeter version of yourself? Tonight, the world feels heavy, and this feels easy. They lean back, close their eyes, letting the moment swallow them whole, and wonder, just for a second, would you fight if the enemy lived inside you? Riley wakes the next morning pretending last night never happened. They move through the kitchen quietly, avoiding the sight of the trash bin where the evidence sits. They convince themselves it was just a bad night, that today will be different, but the heaviness in their chest follows them like a shadow. They open the fridge and stare at food they bought with good intentions, but none of it feels comforting. They grab their keys, choosing to leave the apartment before their thoughts swallow them again. At work, Riley keeps their head down. They answer emails, nod at coworkers, pretend everything is fine. But around noon, the craving hits like a sudden wave washing over a sandcastle. Their leg bounces under the desk, fingers tapping restlessly. They try to drink water, try to breathe, but the restlessness grows. They tell themselves to stay strong, to hold on. But by early afternoon, they're already planning which store they'll stop at on the way home. During the drive home, Riley keeps the radio low, using the soft background noise to quiet the thoughts swirling in their head. They keep replaying the same promise. I'll do better tomorrow. But the closer they get to their street, the heavier the urge becomes. They know exactly where to turn, exactly where the bright lights and sugar sit waiting. It feels like muscle memory, like something their body decides before their mind can protest. Mine. Riley stands in the convenience store aisle, staring at the rows of brightly colored wrappers. Their heart beats faster, not from excitement, but from shame. They pick up one item, then another, pretending they're deciding, but they already know what they'll choose. They place everything on the counter quickly, avoiding the cashier's eyes. On the walk back to the car, the night air feels cold, sharper than before, and Riley suddenly realizes how quiet everything is, how the world never seems to notice the battles happening inside them. Riley spends the next morning tearing through their kitchen like someone trying to erase fingerprints. Boxes, wrappers, bags, everything goes into the trash. They move fast, almost frantic, telling themselves that this time it will stick. This time, they mean it. They stand in the doorway afterward, breathing hard, staring at the empty shelves that should feel like victory, but instead feel like loss. They whisper that they're fine, that they're stronger than this, but deep down they know they're not fighting sugar. They're fighting the person they become when they eat it, the version of them who finally feels quiet, finally feels enough. By midday, Riley tries to rebuild a routine. They open a notebook, writing goals, schedules, rules, anything that looks like control. Each line feels like a promise they hope they can keep. But halfway through, their hand begins to shake. The craving isn't loud yet, just a whisper curling at the edges of their thoughts. Riley pushes the notebook away, telling themselves they don't need the comfort anymore, that they're stronger than a craving. But a tiny tremble in their chest says otherwise. In the afternoon, Alex texts asking if they want to meet for coffee. Riley stares at the message for a long moment. They know Alex means well, but today feels fragile, like one wrong word might make everything crumble. They type a quick excuse and toss the phone aside. As the silence settles, the craving grows louder, creeping into the empty spaces of the room. Riley grips the edge of the table, trying to breathe the feeling away, but their chest tightens like something inside is begging for escape. By early evening, Riley decides to go for a walk to distract themselves. They step outside into the cool air, trying to let the rhythm of their footsteps calm their racing thoughts. But every street corner holds a memory. Late-night snacks, emergency cravings, moments when Sugar felt like the only friend they had. Riley feels the pull, subtle at first, then sharper. They whisper, "Not tonight," but the whisper sounds weak, almost like an apology. As darkness settles, Riley steps slow in front of the same convenience store they promised themselves they wouldn't return to. Their heartbeat stutters. They stand frozen, staring at the bright doorway like it's both punishment and relief. They tell themselves they're only going inside for water, just water, nothing more. But the moment they push through the door, the familiar smell hits them. Sweet, warm, safe. And in an instant, all their rules crumble like they were never real in the first place. Riley tells themselves they'll only buy one thing. Just one. But by the time they reach the car, their hands are full, bags rustling like loud confessions. They sit behind the wheel, the world outside fading as they tear open the first wrapper. The sweetness hits fast, a rush that makes everything inside them go quiet. For a moment they feel weightless, almost whole. But as they swallow, a tremble crawls into their chest. They know what comes next. The shame, the spinning thoughts, the sinking feeling that they've lost another fight. Still, they keep eating, desperate to hold on to the silence for just a little longer. Minutes later, Riley slumps back in the driver's seat, breathing unevenly. The wrappers pile up like tiny failures scattered across their lap. Their stomach tightens, not from hunger but from everything they're trying not to feel. Their hands shake as they grip the steering wheel, grounding themselves before the panic takes over. They whisper, "Why do I keep doing this?" But the empty car offers no answer. The sweetness fades, replaced by a heavy fog settling behind their ribs. Riley tries to pull themselves together before heading home, but their face burns with embarrassment. They turn the key, only to see Alex's name flash across the phone screen. Their chest tightens. They don't answer. They can't. Not like this. The ringing stops, leaving a silence that feels too sharp. Riley leans their forehead against the steering wheel, wishing they could explain, but knowing they never will. How do you tell someone you're losing yourself to something so small? That night, Riley barely makes it inside before collapsing onto the couch. Their hands still smell like sugar. Their chest feels crowded, like every emotion is trying to break through at once. They curl inward, trying to disappear into their clothes, into the cushions, into anything but their own thoughts. Their mind keeps replaying the moment in the car, how they couldn't stop, how the craving felt bigger than them. The shame sits heavy, but beneath it, there's something else. Fear. Fear that this isn't just a habit. Fear that this is who they are now. The next morning, Riley forces themselves to meet Alex for coffee. They hope the fresh air will help. But when Alex sits down across from them, worry fills his eyes instantly. Riley tries to hide their shaking hands under the table, but Alex notices. His voice is soft when he asks, "Are you okay?" Riley freezes. For a moment, they want to tell him everything. The cravings, the shame, the nights lost to sugar. But the words get stuck, trapped somewhere between fear and pride. They force a smile instead. Alex doesn't believe, and Riley feels the weight of the truth they can't bring themselves to say. "And, bror, Lordy favorite can't be." Riley barely sleeps that night. Every time they close their eyes, they see Alex's worried face, the way he kept searching for the truth Riley couldn't give him. By morning, their chest feels tight, like a storm is gathering inside. They pace the apartment, replaying yesterday's conversation, hating how easily they shut down. They want to be honest, but honesty feels dangerous, like it might break something fragile. Still, part of them knows they can't keep running. Not from Alex, not from themselves. When their phone buzzes with a simple message, "We need to talk," their whole body freezes. Riley meets Alex at the small park near their building. The air is cool, the kind that makes everything feel sharper. Alex stands waiting on a bench, hands in his pockets, eyes filled with the kind of quiet concern Riley has been avoiding. When Riley approaches, Alex doesn't start with anger or disappointment, just a soft, heavy silence. "You're scaring me?" he finally says. Riley's breath catches. They try to look away, but Alex gently steps in front of them. "You don't have to hide from me," he says. The words almost break Riley open. Riley tries to speak, but the words tangle before they ever reach the air. Their hands shake slightly, so they tuck them into their sleeves. Alex watches carefully, not pushing, just waiting. Riley feels something inside them crack, something small but real. "I don't know what's wrong with me," they whisper. Alex shakes his head gently. "Nothing's wrong with you. You're hurting, and you're doing it alone." The truth of it hits so hard, Riley almost sways. No one has ever said it out loud before. Riley breaks. The tears come suddenly, frustrated, quiet, shaking. They cover their face, ashamed, but Alex steps closer, not touching, just staying. "Talk to me," he says again, softer this time. Riley forces the words out, barely above a whisper. "I can't stop. Because when I eat, I don't have to be me. I get to feel like someone easier, someone good." Saying it out loud feels like ripping open a wound. Alex's expression shifts from concern to heartbreak. "Riley, you don't need sugar to be good." For the first time, Riley lets someone see the chaos inside them. They talk in short, shaky sentences about the cravings, the shame, the loneliness, the version of themselves they escape into. Alex listens without interrupting, without trying to fix it, just holding space like a steady anchor. When Riley finally quiets, Alex takes a slow breath. "Let's get you help," he says gently, "not because you're broken, but because you deserve more than this." Riley swallows hard. A small part of them feels terrified, but another part feels relief, warm and unfamiliar. Riley sits in the waiting room, trying not to shake. The quiet feels too loud, every tick of the clock landing heavy in their chest. They never imagined being here, never imagined admitting they needed help. Their knee bounces as they stare at the closed door ahead, wondering if they're about to fall apart or finally start healing. When the door opens and the therapist steps out with a gentle smile, Riley feels the ground shift under them. They rise slowly, unsure, but something in them whispers, "Keep going." Inside the office, Riley sinks into the couch, feeling exposed under the gentle quiet. Mara sits across from them, calm, patient, giving Riley space to breathe. After a long silence, Riley begins talking. Slow, careful, almost apologetic. They explain the cravings, the panic, the strange comfort sugar gives them. Mara listens without judgment, nodding softly. "It sounds like sugar isn't the problem," she says gently. "It's what it lets you avoid." The words land deeper than Riley expects, stirring something old and familiar. As they talk more, Riley begins to unravel memories they've avoided for years. Times they felt too much, expected too much from themselves. Moments when food became the one place they could stop pretending. Mara listens carefully, occasionally guiding them with gentle questions. Riley's voice cracks when they admit how sugar gives them permission to be soft, to not hold everything together. Saying it aloud feels raw, painful, but also freeing. Mara nods. "You learned to survive. Now you get to learn something else." By mid-session, Riley feels the exhaustion of honesty settling into their bones. They wipe their eyes, embarrassed, but Mara shakes her head gently. "Tears are honesty," she says. Riley exhales shakily, realizing how much they've been holding in. Mara asks about the moments before the cravings, the emotions simmering underneath. Riley describes the loneliness, the pressure, the constant fear of disappointing people. Mara listens, then speaks softly. "It sounds like you don't trust yourself to be loved without hiding." The truth hits like a quiet earthquake. At the end of the session, Riley feels drained but lighter, like some of the weight they carried finally cracked open. Mara hands them a small card with their next appointment. Healing isn't about forcing yourself to change, she says. It's about understanding the parts of you that needed protecting. Riley nods, unsure if they deserve that kind of kindness, but grateful anyway. When they step outside, the afternoon air feels different, sharper, clearer, almost like the beginning of something they're finally allowed to want. Riley walks home after their second session with Mara, feeling an ache that isn't physical. The conversations keep replaying in their mind, every question, every truth they didn't know they were carrying. By the time they reach their apartment, they feel like they're standing on the edge of something they've spent years avoiding. They sit on the floor, beside their bed, pulling out an old box they haven't opened in years. Photos, notes, little memories spill out. As they sift through them, something inside them tightens. They know where this is going. They know what memory is coming. Riley pulls out a school photo. Age 10, smiling too wide, forced and nervous. They remember sitting alone in the cafeteria, eating the same sugary snacks every day because it made the loneliness hurt less. They remember telling themselves that as long as their mouth was full, no one would ask questions. The memory hits harder than they expect. Riley studies the picture, realizing how early they learned to use sweetness as a shield. Their chest aches with the tenderness of remembering who they once were. Riley closes their eyes as more memories surface, coming home from school to silence, feeling invisible, waiting for someone to ask how they were, but no one ever did. Sugar became the friend that didn't leave, didn't judge, didn't demand anything. It offered a feeling they couldn't name then. Safety. Riley presses a hand to their chest, breathing unevenly. For the first time, they see the pattern clearly. Not weakness, not failure, but survival. A younger version of them learned to cope alone, and the adult version never stopped repeating the lesson. Riley picks up a journal page they wrote years ago, words messy and scared. They read the lines quietly. I don't think anyone would like me if they knew how much I feel. The sentence hits them like a punch. They curl the paper in their hand, fighting the sting in their eyes. Mara's words ring in their mind. You don't trust yourself to be loved without hiding. Riley lets the tears come this time. Slow, steady, honest. They aren't crying about the sugar. They're crying for the kid who thought they had to earn softness. When Riley finally stands, they feel different. Not fixed, not healed, but clearer. They place the old memories back in the box gently, like they're putting something fragile to rest. They know the cravings won't disappear overnight. They know the fear will show up again. But for the first time, they understand what they're fighting. And who they're fighting for. They whisper a small promise into the quiet room. I'll take care of you now. It feels strange, but right. Like meeting themselves after years of looking away. Riley wakes before sunrise, the world still quiet, the sky a soft blue that feels almost gentle. They sit at the edge of their bed, noticing the stillness inside themselves. It isn't perfect. There's a familiar tug, that old craving whispering from the corners of their mind, but it doesn't feel as loud today. They stretch their fingers, breathing slowly, letting the morning air fill their chest. Healing is slow, messy, uneven. But for the first time, Riley feels like they're choosing themselves. Not the comfort, not the escape, themselves. Later, Riley walks through the quiet streets toward the coffee shop to meet Alex. The air is cool, carrying the smell of early morning rain. They still feel nervous. Change feels delicate, like something that could slip through their fingers if they grip too tight. But they keep moving, letting each step remind them that they're not the same person who hid in parking lots and convenience stores. There's someone trying, someone learning, someone becoming. Alex is already waiting at a small corner table, 2 coffees steaming between them. His face softens the second he sees Riley. As they sit, Riley feels a strange warmth spread through their chest, a mix of fear, trust, and gratitude. They tell Alex about the memories they uncovered, the truths they faced, the slow work of unlearning. For once, they don't hide the shaking in their voice. Alex listens quietly, then smiles. "I'm proud of you," he says. The words hit deeper than Riley expects. That evening, Riley returns to therapy. They sit across from Mara, feeling steadier this time. They talk about the box, the memories, the fear they carried alone for so long. Mara listens with the same calm presence, nodding as Riley speaks. "You're learning to see yourself with compassion," she says. Riley feels a quiet pride grow in their chest. Maybe they're not fixed. Maybe they don't need to be. Maybe healing is just choosing to understand the parts of yourself you once ignored. That night, Riley stands in their kitchen, a single candy bar resting on the counter. They pick it up, not with panic or desperation, but with awareness. They breathe in, letting the moment settle. This isn't about winning or losing. It's about understanding. They place the candy back down gently, turning toward the window where the city lights flicker like small, distant hopes. Riley whispers, "I'm still here." And for the first time, it feels like enough.